Hey everybody, this is Professor Russo. We're getting ready to start our Unit 2, which is going to be on family and on gender roles within TV shows that are about families. So we're moving now from week 1, where we really focused on narrative, writing about ourselves, to working more into some analysis. And this is a little bit trickier, so this is just a quick video to talk to you a little bit about the type of analytical work we'd like to see in your first postings that you're going to do with analysis. So for this week, you'll need to watch a television show, 2 episodes of one television show, and you've got some readings due. If you can do those by Saturday, then by Sunday you'll be able to do the discussion board post and then do some responses to your classmates by the end of this week, which would be Tuesday. So I want to talk a little bit about that discussion board post, because a lot of the times when people first attempt this, a lot of the comments that I give, or where people sometimes get a little bit lost, is that they give me really lovely summaries, but they're not so much doing the analysis. So let's scroll down into what we're going to be looking at for this assignment. The first thing is in how you're looking at the show. So if we look at the watching the show for week 2, some of the questions that we ask you right here are to help you think about your show in a more critical way. So the idea about what is assumed to be normal or taken for granted for men and women in their different roles in the show? Are they represented in traditional or non-traditional ways? Is the character's gender even important or not important to the roles they play? Like, for instance, if you switch the gender roles, would change the show or not a lot? Do we see that the men and women value different things? So all kinds of those questions. So the whole time you're looking at it, you're questioning yourself. Would it matter if this character that's a man was a woman? Is this woman working in a job that is traditionally considered one that is for women? Is this man showing emotions or not showing emotions in a way we would expect? But if we look down to the discussion, it's looking for a fairly meaty set of discussions right here. It's 4 developed paragraphs about the show. The first paragraph is a summary of the episode you watched. The second or third, you're going to discuss the gender roles. You can look at 1 male and 1 female character, different roles of 2 female characters, or you can even do all the paragraphs, 2 different paragraphs on 1 singular character, as long as you're talking about the gender roles. And then in the 4th paragraph, you want to discuss how those roles conform or challenge the gender stereotypes discussed in at least one of the readings. While you're supporting that, you want to provide clear and specific examples from the episodes and provide quotes and paraphrases from the selected readings. So to give you guys an idea of how that would look, I've already gone ahead and posted an example one. If you go to our full class forums, you will see that I have posted one under the discussion board show. So it says Professor Russo's example. So I use the TV show This Is Us. To make this a little bit easier for us to see that, I'm going to go ahead and pull it up. I originally typed it in a Microsoft Word document. And we'll talk about what I'm doing here, and then hopefully you'll be able to apply that to your own shows. So here we go. I looked at an episode of This Is Us from the first season, where we've got the central couple unfolding. So as you can see, I've got my summary about what's going on. Here's what happens, is most of what I talk about in this first paragraph. The couple is essentially, the main conflict for this one is they're having a fight during the Super Bowl about whether or not they should have kids, when they're going to have kids. If you look, though, I end this paragraph by sort of alluding to what I'm going to do in the next 2. Although both generations of Pearsons have interesting performances of gender, perhaps the most interesting characters to follow are Rebecca and Jack, for both challenge traditional gender roles. I decided to focus on this couple, Rebecca and Jack. They're actually the parents in this sitcom. I guess we could say family drama almost, more than a sitcom. It's a pretty dramatic show most of the time. But we see their life in the early 70s through the early 80s. So they're, in a more traditional time period. And yet, the more I watch this show, the more I realize that their marriage was one that did really break traditional gender roles, especially when you think about the time. So that's my claim. You'll see then that I've got 2 paragraphs that follow, one focusing on Rebecca and one on Jack. So I want to talk about how, instead of just summarizing what Rebecca says, I've already got my summary in that first paragraph, I provide specific evidence of the claim I'm making, which is that Rebecca's focus on her personal goals of being a singer do challenge the traditional gender roles. It appears she's really only doing those challengings. So one thing I want to focus on, I'll show you a little clip of it that I use to help support my claim. So later in the show, the characters have already had a couple of comments about having or not having kids, and we see them at the Super Bowl party, and they watch their friends come in that have children, and the children have told this horrible story about what happened on their way out the door. The baby vomited, and then their toddler slapped the baby, and the kids and the babysitters are crying. and that's going on. So if I left it right there, just saying this is what's happening, I haven't done analysis. Where I start to do analysis is when I talk about how and why Rebecca's reaction shows that she challenges traditional gender roles. So let's look at that little bit of information right there.
Okay, let's do it. So, I am not enough for you. Am I not enough for you, Jack?
Okay, back to the bar?
Yep.
I never said that. I just meant we need to have this conversation at some point.
Okay, and you want to do that right now, at Froggy's, during the Super Bowl.
Yes, please don't make us miss a second of your drama.
Could you butt out? Hey, babe, we joke about it. We see people with kids and go, oh, thank God that's not us. We joke about it, right? Did I not get the joke?
I'm not. Babe, you're right. You were right. Coming from the family that I did, I definitely never saw myself having kids.
Okay.
But then I met you. And, we're great together. And I love our life. But the older we get, the more I think there's got to be something bigger than just me and you.
Well, thank you very much for involving me in this huge, invisible change of yours. Huge. Because you knew when you met me and married me that I did not want to be one of those women whose sole purpose in life was to be a mother. If that's what you wanted, you should have married my mom.
I was thinking more your sister.
You probably...
Okay, so that gets us to the end of their little fight there. But again, it's not about what happens as much as it is about me explaining what happens. So you'll see that I try to do that down here. Later when Jack pushes the issue, she, Rebecca, is more blunt and says, you knew when we met and married me that I did not want to be one of those women whose sole purpose in life was to be a mother. Oh, and look at this. Always catching ourselves some typos. Wants to be a mother. One of those women whose sole purpose in life was to be a mother. Her face becomes angry and her tone is harsh. She is not using any softness or flirting to make her point, but rather stating quite clearly what she wants. Hereby her refusal to accept that her primary role is that of mother and homemaker, her boldness in stating her needs, and her deep interest in the traditionally male field of sports, the character is challenging the traditional gender roles. So I provide an example. I've got this very specific quote right there, and that's the cool thing about, we're taking an online class. You can watch your videos online. I'm watching mine through Hulu, so I can go back. I actually had to watch it about 3 times before I could get the quote down, but it's, helps us get a deeper understanding. And then I provide why what she's doing right there shows that she's rejecting something. She's refusing. She's not being sweet. She's not flirty. She's saying, this is what I want. So then later you'll see that I, in the 4th paragraph, also try to work in some of the readings. I have another paragraph on Jack and talk about how Jack actually, wants a family. And in that 4th paragraph, you'll see that I use quotes and paraphrases from the readings to help support my point. So one thing I say right there about breaking traditions is one of the clearest ways they do this is by having the male character care more deeply about family. For instance, in her article, Susan Witt notes that marriage and family are not important to television's men. Note how I have included what we call right here a signal phrase. Susan Witt notes that. I indicate who's saying that before I put in the quote. You should do the same thing with a paraphrase. So even if I didn't use a direct quote or said something like, men generally don't care on television series about their families that much, I would still say that came from Susan Witt because I got the research from her. So I've got that information. Then after it, I explain why that's important. Jack's behavior in this episode, pushing the conversation about children, yet at the same time respecting his wife's desire for a singing career, challenges the norm that Witt found. And then I include some information from another source. And of course, I've got my MLA citation there as well. So again, you can find the whole posting here on Blackboard, and I encourage you to take a look at it and see how I'm using this particular show to do some analysis. And remember, if you have any questions on the way, you are always welcome to reach out with an email or to try to hook up with me in office hours. You can always give me a call on Mondays and Wednesdays and Tuesdays, the days that I have my office hours. If those times don't work, well, just send an email and we'll see if we can make another time work. So I hope you guys enjoy this assignment and have a good week.